I woke up late that morning, the sun already high in the sky, filling the room with a quiet, strange sense of unease. At first, I couldn't figure out why I was feeling this way. The alarm had turned off hours ago, yet something inside me, some invisible voice, had pulled me awake earlier than usual. The scent of coffee lingered in the air, pulling me from my thoughts. Slowly, I rose from bed. My mother was still asleep, her faint snoring echoing from her room. My father wasn't home. His car had vanished from the driveway sometime during the night. I quickly dressed, grabbed my phone, and stepped outside. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay at home anymore. There was something, an instinct, maybe, that told me today something would change. My name is Alice. I'm 25 years old, and I know how to use every glance, every word, to draw attention to myself. I wouldn't say it's just about beauty. I'm more than that. I'm a true seductress. And to me, using that power is an art, one I've perfected. I have everything I want, but that's not enough. It's never enough. The man I wanted was Steven. He was so close, but so far away. At first, I watched him. He was the husband of my best friend, Karen. But I knew he wasn't just a man. He was the key to what I truly desired, and he was going to be mine. No doubt about it. Why Steven? Why this married man in his 40s? Because he was perfect, someone I could manipulate, someone who didn't even realize he was already a pawn in my game. Steven had it all: success, a beautiful wife, and the perfect life. But what he didn't have was excitement. Passion. Something I could give him. We met by chance. I worked at a high-end cafe that catered to wealthy clients, Steven included. He came in with Karen, and they seemed like the perfect couple. But I noticed him, the way his gaze lingered just a bit too long. It wasn't just a glance, it was something more. At first, I didn't act on it. But as time passed, I realized he was interested. And I knew, if I wanted him, I could have him. It would take patience, but I had all the time in the world. Steven was a man on the edge, looking for something. His marriage with Karen had lost its spark. He didn't even realize it yet, but he was already on the verge of being seduced, and I was the one who would lead him there. Slowly, but surely. Every encounter felt like a game. He would smile, make small talk, but his eyes always gave him away. He was intrigued, unsure, but he didn't pull back. That was the moment I knew, this man was mine to claim. But it wasn't just about seducing him, it was about taking control. I wanted more than just his body. I wanted his mind, his soul, his submission. And that night, when they left the cafe together, I knew it was the perfect opportunity. I walked up to their table, my presence commanding, and spoke to him. I knew the moment our eyes met that this was it. I wasn't just a pretty face anymore, I was the only one he saw. "Hey, Steven," I said, my voice soft but assertive. "How are you?" He was a little stunned, and I saw his face shift: curiosity, interest, but also something deeper. I saw the struggle in his eyes, as if he were trying to resist. But I wasn't going to let him. "Not now." "Good," he replied, trying to smile, but there was something off about it. I knew I had him now. With every word, every gesture, I could see him melting. That night, I received a text from Steven. A simple message: "You were incredible tonight." That was just the beginning. I had him in my grasp. He was already mine. The game had begun, and I was going to play it until the very end. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. I couldn't help but savor the power I had over Steven. I could sense his longing every time I saw him, like an invisible thread pulling us closer together. He didn't know it yet, but he was already in my hands, and I wasn't about to let go. He texted me every day. Simple messages at first: "Good morning, how's your day going?" But I knew what they really were. They were him slowly falling into my trap. And I was so patient, so careful. I didn't need to rush. The more he reached out, the more control I had. One evening, I invited him to meet me after work. It was just casual at first, nothing more than drinks at a quiet bar. But I knew that once we were alone, everything would change. When he walked in, his eyes locked onto mine. The chemistry between us was undeniable. He was caught in the current, and I was the one guiding it. We sat at a corner booth, the dim lighting casting shadows that made his features appear more intense, more desirable. I smiled to myself, already knowing how this would end. He was already vulnerable, and I was about to exploit it. "So, how's everything at home?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. But I saw the flicker in his eyes. His walls were cracking. I could feel it. "It's fine," he replied, shifting in his seat. His voice faltered. "But you know, Karen and we've been distant." I leaned in slightly, letting my perfume linger in the air between us. "That's unfortunate. But maybe there's a way to fix it," I said, my voice low, almost a whisper. He looked at me, his lips parted, as if trying to find the words. I could see his internal struggle, but I wasn't going to let him hold back. I reached for my drink and slowly took a sip, never breaking eye contact. "I know you want something more, Stephen," I said softly. "You don't have to pretend with me." His breath hitched. It was the moment I had been waiting for. I could see the conflict in his eyes. He was married, he loved his wife, yet here he was, hanging on every word I said. The attraction was too strong, and his resistance was crumbling. "Why are you doing this?" he finally asked, his voice a mix of guilt and desire. I smiled, my eyes gleaming. "Because I can. Because you want me just as much as I want you. And deep down, you know that. Don't you?" He didn't respond at first. His gaze shifted to the table, his fingers nervously tracing the rim of his glass. He was on the edge, and I could feel it. I could feel the moment he crossed over. I leaned in closer, just enough for him to feel my breath on his skin. "You're not the only one who needs more, Stephen. We both know what's missing, and I'm more than happy to fill that void." He swallowed hard, and his hand twitched as if he wanted to reach out. But he held back, his internal war still playing out. "You're married," he muttered, almost apologetically. "And yet, here you are," I responded, my voice filled with both challenge and promise. "It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is now. What matters is us." The tension was unbearable. It was only a matter of time before he broke, before he gave in to the temptation. I could feel the heat rising between us, and I knew that I had him exactly where I wanted him. His mind was still fighting, but his body was already betraying him. After a long silence, Stephen finally stood up, his movements slow, deliberate. I watched him with a smirk as he made his way toward the exit. His eyes never left me, and the desire in them was unmistakable. I should go," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I stood up as well, walking toward him with a slow, measured pace. "You don't have to leave yet," I said, brushing past him, my body grazing his side. "You can stay, for a while longer." His breath caught, and for a moment, I thought he might resist. But then he reached for my arm, pulling me back toward him. I smiled to myself. It was done. He was mine. He leaned down and kissed me, just a soft, tentative touch at first. But I knew that once he crossed that line, there was no turning back. As the kiss deepened, I felt the power surge through me. This was only the beginning. Stephen was about to lose everything, and I was the one who would take it all. But I couldn't let him know just how far I was willing to go. Not yet. I had to keep him in the dark, make him believe that everything was still under his control. He had no idea that the real game had just begun. I pulled away slowly, looking him in the eye. "Go home, Stephen. Think about what you really want," I whispered. "But remember, you can always come back to me." He hesitated, but finally, he nodded. "I will." And, just like that, I knew the rest of this story would be mine to write. The following days passed like a blur. I could almost feel the pull of Stephen's thoughts, the way he struggled to reconcile his desire with his commitment to Karen. He'd text me late at night, always hesitant at first, but the messages quickly grew bolder. He was caught in the web I'd spun, and now there was no way out. I knew he was torn, but I wasn't going to give him the luxury of time. Every day, I slowly, carefully, pushed him further. His resistance was admirable but futile. The more I kept him in the dark about my intentions, the more he wanted to come closer. It was almost too easy, but it had to be. For the moment, I had him exactly where I wanted him. That evening, I invited him over to my apartment. It wasn't a direct invitation for anything physical, but I knew he wouldn't be able to resist. I wanted him to see what he was missing. I wanted him to crave more, to want more, to feel that desperate desire that would lead him to me. I had planned everything down to the smallest detail: soft lighting, candles, the perfect scent in the air. The music was low, almost a whisper, and the room was just warm enough to make the air thick with tension. I knew he was going to walk in and feel the pull instantly. I could already hear his footsteps outside. I opened the door and smiled. "Hey, Steven," I said, my voice low and inviting. His eyes immediately locked onto mine, and for a second, I saw that familiar conflict flash in his gaze. His mouth opened as if he wanted to say something, but no words came. He was already entranced. "Come on in," I said, stepping aside to let him enter. The way his gaze followed me, like a predator following its prey, made me feel both powerful and exhilarated. We sat down on the couch, the distance between us just a bit too far to feel comfortable. But I knew soon he wouldn't be able to keep his distance. "So, how's everything with Karen?" I asked, trying to sound casual. I knew the question would bother him, but I needed to push him. I needed to see just how far he would go before he realized he was already on the edge. He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. It's not great. We've been growing apart." His words were exactly what I wanted to hear. He was already weakening. I leaned in just slightly, enough to close the distance between us, but not too much to make him feel cornered. "You know, Steven, there's more to life than just staying stuck in something you're not happy with," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You deserve more. You deserve someone who sees you, who understands what you want." His lips parted, and I could see his struggle. He was a man torn between guilt and desire, but I was beginning to notice the shift. He was leaning toward me, inch by inch, as if his mind was telling him to pull away, but his body was betraying him. I let the silence hang in the air between us. I wanted him to feel the tension, to feel the need growing inside him, just as it was growing inside me. Finally, he spoke. "What do you mean?" His voice was barely audible, and I could hear the vulnerability in his tone. I gave him a smile, slow and knowing. "I mean, Steven, that I can give you what you've been missing. I can give you everything Karen can't. Don't you want that? Don't you want to feel something real?" He didn't answer immediately. I saw him swallow hard, and I could feel the internal battle waging within him. But then, just like that, he leaned in closer, his breath warm on my skin. His lips brushed against mine, the kiss tentative at first, but as his hesitation faded, the intensity grew. I let him lead, just for a moment. Then I took control. I deepened the kiss, letting my hands slide across his chest, feeling the rapid beating of his heart beneath my fingertips. He was mine now, and I was going to make him realize it. We pulled away, just for a moment, to catch our breath. "You don't have to go back to her, Steven," I whispered. "You don't have to keep pretending." His chest rose and fell with each breath, and for a moment, he looked like he might break. "But I love her," he said, the words coming out in a broken sigh. I reached up, gently cupping his face. "Then why are you here? Why do you want this?" He didn't have an answer. There was no more room for excuses, no more space for rationality. The truth was out in the open now. And we both knew there was no turning back. I stood up and took a step back, breaking the intimacy. "Think about it, Steven. But don't take too long. The longer you wait, the harder it will be to walk away." I saw the look in his eyes. He was lost. He was already mine. But I had to make sure he stayed that way. The days after that night were filled with constant messages, late-night texts, and more secret meetings. Steven was slowly but surely pulling away from Karen, each time finding an excuse to meet me, to be with me. And every time, I could feel him sinking deeper into the trap. But I wasn't done yet. There was more to this game than simply breaking down his walls. I wanted him to want me more than anything else. I wanted him to be completely and utterly mine. And with each passing day, I felt him getting closer to that point. It had been a few weeks since that night. Each interaction with Steven felt more intense than the last, but now, something was changing. I could see it in the way he looked at me, like I was the only thing that mattered. The small moments of guilt were fading from his eyes, replaced with desire and confusion. He was mine, but he didn't know it yet. One evening, he called me. His voice, as always, held a certain tension. He hadn't texted me much that day, and I could tell he was stewing in his own thoughts. The quiet uncertainty between us had been building, but I knew exactly how to handle it. "I need to see you," he said, his words coming fast, almost desperate. I could hear the anxiety in his voice. This was the moment, the breaking point. "Okay, come over," I replied, as casually as I could, though my heart was racing. The game had become more dangerous now, but I was ready. I always was. He arrived shortly after. I opened the door, and he stepped in, the familiar scent of his cologne flooding my senses. But there was something different this time. His eyes didn't have that same fire they usually did. Something was off. "Steven, what's going on?" I asked, feigning innocence as I closed the door behind him. "You seem distant." "I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this," he said, his voice strained. I raised an eyebrow, pretending to not understand. "What do you mean?" He looked at me, his hands trembling slightly. "I'm torn, Alice. I love Karen, but I can't stop thinking about you. You make me feel something that I can't get anywhere else. But this, it's tearing me apart." I took a step closer to him, reaching for his hand. "Steven, you don't have to choose. You're here with me now. You're the one who came to me, remember? You've been here before, and you're going to come back again. You don't have to carry the burden of guilt." His eyes locked onto mine, the storm inside him raging. "I can't just leave her," he muttered. "She's my wife. We have history." "You have history," I agreed, keeping my tone calm, but beneath it, there was a fire burning. "But you and I, we have chemistry. We have something that you'll never have with her again. You've already made your choice, Steven." His face softened as he finally reached for me. "I'm sorry, Alice. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted this to feel wrong." I moved closer, my lips brushing against his ear as I whispered, "You can make it right. I'm what you need, not her." The kiss that followed was different this time. He was desperate, but so was I. I pulled him into me, pressing him against the wall. The moment felt realer than any we'd shared before. This wasn't just about the thrill of the chase anymore. It was about power. My power. And he was finally starting to realize it. Later that night, as we lay together, I could sense the shift in him. He was no longer just the man who couldn't resist me, he was becoming dependent. I knew this game was changing. Now I held all the cards, and Steven was playing my hand. But as he drifted off to sleep beside me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was brewing, something I hadn't anticipated. I'd made him believe he wanted me more than anything. But now I was beginning to wonder, did I want him, or was he simply another piece in my carefully constructed game? I had control, yes. But in that moment, I realized that I, too, might have underestimated the power of desire. The lines between who controlled whom were starting to blur. The next day, I received a message from Steven that caught me off guard. It wasn't like the usual texts. It was longer, more serious. He confessed that he was feeling empty, that the lies he'd been living were starting to weigh on him. The guilt was gnawing at him. "I don't know if I can keep this up, Alice. I want you, but I also can't betray my entire life like this. I'm going to tell Karen the truth. It's time for me to face it all." I stared at the message for a few long seconds, feeling a knot form in my stomach. For the first time, I was unsure of how to proceed. Was this the end? Had I pushed too far, too fast? But then a thought struck me. No, this wasn't the end. This was just another part of my plan. I responded quickly, keeping my tone steady, calm. "Don't do anything rash, Steven. Think carefully. The truth won't set you free, it will only make you lose everything. You have a choice, but you need to make it carefully." I had no intention of letting him leave. Not now, not after all I'd invested. He was too deep into this. And I was about to make sure he stayed there. By the time Steven arrived at my apartment later that evening, I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. The conflict was eating him up inside, but he was still tethered to me. I could see it. He might have tried to justify it to himself, but deep down, he was already mine. He just hadn't realized it yet. "You were right," he admitted, sitting across from me at the small table. "I've been lying to myself. To everyone. But I can't just walk away from this. From you." I know, I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. You've already made your choice, Stephen. You can't walk away. And you don't want to. He hesitated, but then nodded slowly. What do we do now? We finish this, Stephen. We finish what we started. But you're not leaving me. Not ever. He looked at me, his face a mix of confusion and acceptance. What if I want to? What if I want to walk away? Then you'll lose everything, I said, my voice cold but with a hint of a smile. And I don't think you're ready for that yet. As I looked at him, I knew that there was no going back. I had him exactly where I wanted him. I could see it in Stephen's eyes, the conflict, the turmoil. He was walking a tightrope, caught between the life he knew and the life I was offering him. The lines between right and wrong were fading, and in their place, a new reality was taking shape, one where I held all the power. But as the days went on, something shifted. I could feel the tension building, but it wasn't the kind of tension I was used to. This was different. Stephen wasn't just a man caught in my web anymore. He was starting to question everything. The guilt was building inside him, and while he still came to me, there was a hesitance in his movements, a distance in his words. I needed to push him further. One evening, after dinner, I invited him over for a drink. He was hesitant, but I knew he couldn't resist. I had already set the stage, low lights, jazz playing softly in the background, and the smell of wine lingering in the air. It was all part of the plan. Every detail mattered. Come in, I said when he arrived, my voice smooth and confident, just like I wanted him to feel. We need to talk. He stepped inside, looking more conflicted than I had ever seen him. I watched him for a moment, savoring the tension. It was delicious. I knew this moment could be the one where he would truly break. He didn't sit down right away. He stood by the door for a second, as if weighing his options. But then, slowly, he walked toward the couch. What's on your mind? I asked, my tone casual, almost too casual. I wanted him to think this was normal. But nothing about our relationship was normal. I'm not sure if I can keep doing this, Alice, he said, his voice heavy with guilt. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. Karen doesn't deserve this. And neither do you. I crossed the room and stood in front of him, my face inches from his. You don't get it, Stephen. I'm not asking you to choose between me and her. I'm giving you the chance to choose between living a lie and living with the truth. And the truth is, you want me. You need me. His breath caught, and for a moment, I saw him struggle. His hands clenched into fists, and I knew I had him right where I wanted him. He was finally seeing it. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about him realizing that his desires had consumed him. I never wanted it to be this way, he whispered, his voice shaking. I never meant to hurt anyone. I stepped back, letting him breathe for a moment, then turned to face him fully. You can't keep playing both sides, Stephen. You can't keep pretending to be the perfect husband while you're falling into my arms. If you want this, if you want me, you need to accept the consequences. He looked at me, his eyes full of regret and longing. But what about Karen? What about everything we've built? I smiled softly, the kind of smile that hid 1,000 secrets. It's already falling apart, Stephen. You just haven't been brave enough to face it yet. The words hung in the air, thick and heavy. I knew what he was thinking. He wanted to walk away. He wanted to keep his family intact. But he was too far gone now. His desire for me had clouded his judgment, and I wasn't going to let him back out now. I took a step closer, reaching out to touch his hand. You've already made your choice, I said softly. You came here tonight, knowing exactly what was going to happen. You can't walk away from this. Not now. Not ever. Stephen's lips parted as if he was going to argue, but I wasn't having any of it. I leaned in and kissed him soft at first, then with more intensity. His resistance crumbled, and he pulled me closer. I felt the power shift. It was like I could control every part of him with a single touch. But even as I kissed him, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were starting to slip from my control. For the first time, I was unsure of where this was heading. I had him, yes, but at what cost? The following days were filled with tension. Stephen became more withdrawn, but he still came to me, still sought me out. It was like he couldn't stop himself, even though the guilt was eating him alive. But I couldn't let him slip away. Not yet. I knew he was close to breaking point. He was already questioning everything: his marriage, his life, his desires. And that was exactly what I needed. Once he was completely consumed by doubt, I would make sure he'd never want anything else but me. Underscore 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 underscore. One night, Stephen came over later than usual. I could tell he was on edge, the weight of his guilt hanging heavy on his shoulders. He didn't even make it past the doorway before he started speaking. "I can't do this anymore, Alice," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm going to tell Karen everything. I'm going to fix this." I stood in front of him, blocking the door as I stared him down. "No, Stephen. You're not going to fix anything. You're going to stay right here with me, where you belong. And if you walk out that door, you'll lose me forever." He hesitated, his hand on the door handle, the tension between us palpable. But just as I saw him about to pull away, I took one step forward, closing the gap between us. "You don't have to choose between us," I said softly, my voice low and seductive. "But if you leave now, there's no coming back." I watched as his resolve cracked. Slowly, he let go of the door and turned back to face me. The storm inside him was still raging, but in that moment, I knew I had won. "You're mine now, Stephen. And there's nothing you can do to change that," I whispered, pulling him into a kiss that sealed our fate. And as I kissed him, I couldn't help but wonder, had I gone too far this time? Or had I finally found the one man who would truly belong to me? The days that followed were filled with an unsettling silence. Stephen still came to me, still sought my company, but I could feel a distance growing. The guilt was suffocating him, but it was something I could use. His internal struggle had become my weapon, and I knew just how to exploit it. He no longer had the same fire in his eyes when he looked at me. The passion was still there, but it was clouded by the storm of doubt and fear that raged within him. I could see the change in him. The man I had first seduced was now a shell, a man too torn between his desires and the consequences of his actions. But I wasn't about to let him slip through my fingers. Not now. Not after everything I'd done to bring him to this point. That night, he arrived later than usual. He looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot as if he hadn't slept in days. He stepped into my apartment, his presence filling the space with a heavy tension. I watched him carefully, noticing how he hesitated at the door before stepping further inside. His usual confident stride was gone, replaced with an unsure shuffle. I could tell something was weighing on him, but I wasn't about to ask. I already knew what it was. "Stephen," I said softly, keeping my voice even and calm. "We need to talk." He looked up at me, his face etched with fatigue. "I know, Alice," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The guilt is eating me alive." I smiled, knowing that this was the perfect moment to push him even further. "You don't need to feel guilty, Stephen," I said, walking closer to him, my voice soft yet firm. "You deserve this. You deserve everything I'm giving you." His eyes flickered with doubt, but there was something else there, something deeper. It was the desire. It was always the desire. "I don't know what to do anymore," he confessed, his voice shaking. "I can't keep lying to Karen. I can't keep lying to myself." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. I wasn't going to let him leave, not this time. Not after everything we'd shared. "You're not lying to anyone, Stephen," I said, my voice almost soothing. "You're just living in the truth. The truth that you want me. The truth that we're meant to be together." He shook his head, a small chuckle escaping his lips. "It's not that simple, Alice. I can't just abandon my whole life. I have responsibilities. I have a family." I could feel his resistance, but I knew it was fragile. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. "You can keep pretending, Stephen. You can keep living a lie. But every time you come back to me, you're choosing me. You're choosing what you really want." He didn't answer, but I could see the struggle in his eyes. He wanted to fight it, but the attraction was too strong. The desire was too powerful. He was already beyond the point of no return. You've already made your choice, I whispered, taking his hand and leading him to the couch. You can't walk away now. Not from me. The following days were filled with constant tension. Stephen's guilt was a shadow over everything, but he kept coming back. Every time I saw him, I could see him fighting himself, trying to convince himself that he wasn't trapped. But the truth was he was. He was tangled in his own desires, and I was the one who held the strings. He came over one evening, his face drawn with exhaustion. I can't keep living like this, Alice, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It's tearing me apart. I looked at him, my expression cold and calculating. You don't have to live like this anymore, Stephen. You don't have to fight it. Just give in. I'm what you want. I'm what you need. He didn't respond immediately, but I could see him break a little more with each word I said. The walls he had built were crumbling, and I could feel him slipping further into my control. You don't get to walk away from this, Stephen, I said firmly. You've already made your decision. And now, you're mine. His shoulders slumped as if he had given up fighting. He looked at me, his eyes full of conflict and longing. What do you want from me, Alice? I took a step closer to him, my fingers lightly brushing his jaw. I want you to admit it. I want you to admit that you can't live without me. That no matter how hard you try, you're always going to come back to me. He closed his eyes, his breath shallow as he struggled to hold back tears. I can't do this anymore, he whispered. But I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let him walk away. Not after everything I had done to pull him in. I think you're forgetting something, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You're not the one in control anymore. I am. And the more you fight it, the harder it's going to be for you. His eyes snapped open, and for the first time, I saw the fear in them. He was scared. Scared of me. Scared of what I could do to him. But that fear only made me want him more. I won't let you go, Stephen, I whispered, leaning in close. You belong to me now. His lips parted in protest, but before he could say anything, I kissed him. It wasn't gentle this time. It was hungry. It was possessive. When we finally broke apart, he was panting, his body trembling. And that was when I knew. I had won. I had broken him completely. As I watched him leave that night, his face pale and full of guilt, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I had control, yes, but I wondered how long I could keep it. Was I pushing him too far? Or was this the price I had to pay to get everything I wanted? Stephen was mine, but there was something inside me telling me that this was only the beginning of a much bigger game. And in the end, I wondered who would truly come out on top. Days passed, and with each passing day, Stephen's visits grew more frequent, his presence at my apartment more permanent. He was physically here, but his mind was still trapped in a prison of guilt and doubt. I could see it in his eyes. He was still torn, still questioning everything, but the pull between us was undeniable. He couldn't resist me. I could feel the tension building within him, the desperation to break free from the moral weight he carried. But at the same time, I knew he wasn't willing to walk away from me, not anymore. He was already too deep. I watched him closely, carefully. His guilt was starting to crack, and the more I fed it, the more it fueled the fire. I knew how to keep him on the edge, how to make him crave me even more. I wasn't going to let him slip away. Not now. Not when I was so close to breaking him completely. That evening, he arrived with a different look in his eyes. There was a heaviness to him, like he had something he needed to say, but he wasn't sure if he could get it out. I need to talk to you, he said, standing at the door as if he were about to break down. I didn't let him stand there for long. Come in, I said softly, stepping aside to let him in. My voice was low and inviting, a stark contrast to the tension I felt building inside me. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The moment was different. It felt like the calm before a storm, and I knew he was about to say something that would change everything. But I wasn't going to let it destroy what I had with him. Not yet. I led him to the couch, watching him carefully. He sat down, but there was a hesitance in his movements, like he wasn't sure if he belonged there anymore. But he did. He always would. What is it, Stephen? I asked, sitting next to him. I wasn't going to give him any space to back away from me. I've been thinking a lot, he said, his voice shaky. I can't keep living this lie. I've been lying to Karen, lying to myself, lying to you. And I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. I didn't flinch. I knew this was coming. The confession. The guilt. I had been waiting for it. But I wasn't going to let it derail my plans. Not now. Not after everything we had shared. I reached out and placed my hand on his, making sure he felt the connection. "Stephen, listen to me," I said firmly. "You don't need to feel guilty anymore. You're here with me because you want to be here. You've made your choice. And now you need to stop pretending." He pulled his hand back slightly, his gaze flicking to the floor. "I don't want to hurt Karen. I don't want to ruin everything we built." I leaned in closer, letting my voice drop lower, more intimate. "You're not ruining anything. You're finally living in the truth. And the truth is, you want me. You've wanted me from the moment we met. I'm the one who makes you feel alive, Stephen. And I'm the one who can give you everything you need." He looked at me, his eyes filled with doubt and longing. I could see him fighting with himself, torn between the woman he had built a life with and the woman who had consumed him. But I knew which side he would choose in the end. "I can't just walk away from everything," he whispered. "You're not walking away," I said, my voice firm. "You're stepping into the life you were meant to have. The life with me." He looked at me for a long time, his lips trembling. And then, just like that, he did what I knew he would do. He kissed me. It wasn't a slow, tentative kiss. It was desperate, full of need. His hands moved to my back, pulling me closer, as if he couldn't get enough of me. And for a moment, I felt a spark of satisfaction. This was what I wanted. This was what I had planned. He was mine. But then, as our kiss deepened, something shifted. His hands were trembling, and for the first time, I could feel him pulling away, not physically, but emotionally. I could sense the fear in him. He was scared of what he was becoming. Scared of the choices he had made. I pulled away slightly, my hand gently resting on his chest. "What's wrong, Stephen?" I asked softly, my voice dripping with concern. But inside, I was calculating. I was already thinking about how to reel him back in. "I'm scared, Alice," he said, his voice breaking. "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can do this anymore." I held his gaze, refusing to let him pull away. "You're not going anywhere, Stephen. You belong to me now. And you're not allowed to leave." I could see the hesitation in his eyes, but there was something else there too. Something darker. Something that told me I had him, even if he didn't fully realize it yet. He leaned in, kissed me again, this time softer, almost as if he were surrendering. And in that moment, I knew I had broken him. I had taken control completely. The days after that were a blur. Stephen became a shadow of the man he used to be. He still came to me, still sought my company, but I could see it in his eyes. He was becoming more and more dependent on me. He was lost, and I was the one who had made him that way. But there was something else happening. I wasn't sure what it was yet, but I could feel it. He was starting to pull away, just a little bit, and I knew I needed to make sure that he never left me. He couldn't. I wouldn't let him. I was in control now. But I couldn't help but wonder, how long could I keep him under my spell? The tension between us had grown unbearable. I could feel the threads of control tightening around Stephen, pulling him further into my web, but I also sensed a shift, a crack in the foundation I had built. The guilt, the doubt, the need to escape, all of it was starting to seep back into his mind, and I knew I had to act before he pulled away for good. I watched him closely, noticing the subtle signs, the way his hand would shake when he reached for his phone, how he would hesitate before replying to my texts. It was only a matter of time before he realized what he had lost, what he had sacrificed. But I wasn't going to let him come to his senses. That night, when Stephen showed up at my apartment, he looked more fragile than ever. His face was drawn, his eyes tired, but there was something else there, a new weight in his gaze. The guilt was consuming him, and I knew it was my time to act. "Stephen," I said softly as I opened the door, standing in front of him. "You look like you've seen a ghost." He didn't smile. He didn't laugh. Instead, he just looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of longing and regret. He didn't say anything for a moment, just stood there, his gaze fixed on me. "I can't keep doing this," he finally muttered, his voice low, almost broken. I stepped closer, reaching out to touch his arm. You don't have to, I said gently. I told you, Stephen. You've already made your choice. His face tightened, and I saw the struggle behind his eyes. But what about Karen? He asked, his voice strained. What about everything I've built? I can't just throw it all away. I took a deep breath, my hands steady despite the turmoil inside me. You didn't build it, Stephen. You built a lie. You built a life around something that wasn't real. And now you're realizing it. He looked away, his eyes filled with pain. I don't know who I am anymore, he whispered. I gently cupped his face in my hands, forcing him to meet my eyes. You're exactly who you're meant to be, I said, my voice low and compelling. You're mine. You've always been mine, Stephen. And I won't let you go. He shuddered at my words, his body tensing as if he were about to pull away. But I held him there, keeping him rooted to the spot. The truth was clear now, even if he couldn't admit it. He had already chosen me. You think I've been playing games with you, I continued, my voice calm, but the underlying threat was there. But I'm not. You think you can walk away, but you can't. You belong to me, Stephen. And you will always come back to me. You have no other choice. His breath hitched, and I could see the weight of my words sinking in. I could see the realization creeping into his mind, the truth he'd been running from. You don't understand, he said, his voice desperate. I can't just leave Karen. I can't throw my life away for this. I smiled, a slow, knowing smile. You already have, Stephen. You've already thrown it all away. You just don't know it yet. I leaned in closer, brushing my lips against his ear. And you're not going anywhere. Not now. Not ever. For a long moment, he didn't speak. He just stood there, his chest rising and falling as he fought against the storm inside him. But I could see it now, he was mine. He had crossed the line and he couldn't go back. I kissed him then, soft at first, but it quickly deepened, a silent promise passing between us. His hands moved to my back, pulling me closer as if he couldn't get enough of me. And I let him. I let him sink deeper into this, into me. When we pulled away, Stephen's face was pale, but there was a strange calm in his eyes now. The guilt was still there, but it was overshadowed by something else. Desire. Need. Dependence. You belong to me, I whispered, my hand gently tracing his jawline. And you always will. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. In the days that followed, Stephen became a shadow of the man he used to be. He still came to me, still sought my company, but I could feel the change in him. He was no longer the confident, self-assured man he once was. He was broken, lost in a world he couldn't control, and I was the one who held all the power. But I knew that power came at a price. I had him. I had made him mine, but now I was starting to wonder if I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The more I had of him, the more I wanted to keep him. And the more I kept him, the more I wondered if he would ever be able to leave. But for now, Stephen was mine, and that was all that mattered. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring out the window. I had gotten what I wanted, yes, but the emptiness that had begun to settle in my chest told me something else. I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep this game going. And yet, I couldn't stop. I couldn't let go. The game was far from over. But somewhere, deep inside, I knew that sooner or later, Stephen would try to break free. And when he did, I would be ready.